In this session, we will be looking at the concepts, the basic concepts behind iManage. iManage is an electronic document management system that we use to share information across the whole company very easily. Before I start explaining the iManage concepts and workspaces, let's just take a step back and see how we used to work in a Windows Explorer or a File Explorer environment. So typically what would happen is we would create what is known as a deep folder structure. That consists of a root folder, so to speak, and then sub folders underneath that to organize our information. Some people are very analytical and very organized, and if somebody else had to go onto their machines to find information, it would be relatively easy. However, we all think in different ways, and what is logical to one person might not work for the rest. So if a person goes on leave and somebody else needs to find information on their machines or on their in their folders in the shared drive, it might waste a lot of time when we have to search for information. So that brings us to the concept of our electronic workspaces. So iManage, or iManage Work as the full product is called, works on a workspace-centric concept. So a workspace we can think of as an electronic version of a LeverArch file that we would use to save all the information in pertaining to a particular workspace. Now, in our case, being cooperative computing, we work with projects. All right, so we have clients. Our entities are called clients, and then our workspaces where we put most of our information in are for projects. So we work with clients and projects. All right, so normally we would go, or before we had an electronic version of this, we would probably go and open a new LeverArch file for each new project that we work on. And then on the back of that LeverArch file, we would put a little label that identifies this particular file for us, so that we know when we take that file out of the cupboard what we expect to find inside it. So it would be for a particular client and a specific project. So our workspaces are used for projects. It would probably also tell us who is in charge of that project, or who is the whatever position on the project, when it started, and then on the documents itself we would be able to see who the author was of that document. So we use these, and these are called properties of a workspace, all this metadata about the workspace. And when we file documents into a workspace, those documents inherit all of these properties automatically, just by virtue of the fact that we file the workspace, the document, into the workspace. The document inherits all of those properties. So that means that when we search for information in iManage, we do not need to know where the information is stored necessarily, because we don't search by location anymore to find documents. We search by any of the metadata or profile data that is attached to a document. When we create a physical lever arch file like this, we would normally put dividers inside. They might be colorful cardboard dividers or plastic. They might be ABC to Z, or they might be just little tabs that we can write on what type of document is behind each tab. For instance, agreements or invoices or quotes or whatever it is that we have. So in iManage, those dividers become folders, and the icon for those folders are the typical yellow folder icon that we always find in a Windows environment. The file folders inside the workspace serve the same purpose as the physical dividers would in a physical lever arch file. So they classify the documents for us. If we were to open a lever arch file for a particular project, and we just started punching holes into pieces of paper and we filed them into the file in no particular order, it wouldn't be very helpful, because if somebody was looking for a particular type of document or for a specific document, they would have to start paging through that whole file in order to find the document that they were searching for. In an electronic environment, the equivalent thereof would be somebody who files all their documents just straight into the Documents folder in Windows without creating subfolders. So we need to organize our documents so that we can see the different types of documents very easily and find them as well, because we can search by those types of documents. So the folders, normally the folders and the classes attached to the folders have the same name. So why does that matter to us? Because we can search by the classes that are attached to the folders. So let's say we have a folder called Agreements. We will then also have a class of agreements attached to that folder. And then what happens is we can very easily search for all the agreements that were created by a specific user during a specific time period, for instance. So that is how we would then search, is either by type of document or by author or by creation date, or whatever metadata we would like to use. So in a nutshell, a workspace can be thought of as the electronic equivalent of a physical lever arch file with dividers inside. The workspace has file folders inside instead of the dividers, but they serve the same purpose. We can also, just by the way, we can only save documents into folders. So you cannot save a document straight into a workspace. You have to select a folder to file that document into. Now, all the workspaces in our environment are created based on workspace templates. So we decide beforehand if we are doing an iManage, a new iManage implementation project. When we create the project in Adherent, which is our time and billing system, another product of ours, namely CoFlow, then uses the information from Adherent for the workspace and creates a new workspace and client, if necessary, client and workspace, in iManage for us to use. Now, depending on the type of project that we are opening, that will determine what the folder structure is of that workspace that gets created by CoFlow. In a client, and if we think of Coop's clients, which are normally legal type firms, you can think for yourself that a conveyancing department that does property transactions would work with different types of documents to a litigation department, for instance, who goes to court and handles those kind of cases. So very different types of documents, and therefore, because remember the folder names tell us what type of documents to expect inside the folder. So the folder names for a conveyancing department therefore would be very different to that of a litigation department. Similarly, in our environment, we work on projects, so we pretty much try to follow the same kind of project plan and progression. So our project folders, the folders inside our project workspaces, would typically be centered around the flow of a project, the different steps that need to be completed in order to complete a project. In the next video, I will talk some more. I will take you into the iManage interface and show you how to move around and what everything means and the basics of how to interact with iManage.